kidneys. Welcome to SnapBack to Life. Today we are honored to have with us Miss Sharron of Kidneys with Kidneys. And she has an organization that is dedicated to changing the face of kidney awareness through education, empowerment, and encouragement.
Yes, thank you for having me, Kayla. I appreciate being here and excited to share and just have this discussion with you.
Yes, thank you so much. So my first question would be, what inspired you to start your organization?
So, when I started dialysis, I was young. I was in my 30s, and I have a long story. I'm sure we'll cover bits of it today when we talk. But long story short, when I first walked into a dialysis center for my first treatment, I was just blown away. I couldn't believe that this is what happens in here. I mean, unless you've been in a dialysis center, you really can't picture what happens. And so walking in there that first day, I was like, oh my goodness, like this is what it goes on in here. I've seen them on every corner almost in my community, but I never really knew what happened in there. I really didn't understand dialysis. And so the day that I walked in for that first treatment, my life was changed forever. Like I just couldn't believe my eyes. There were a few things that stood out to me. One, most of the people in there looked like me. They were African American or people of color. Two, you hear the smell alone when you walk in, you're like, wow, this is different. You have the bleach smells and just some of the things that they do to ensure that we have the proper treatments. So the smell kind of took me back. And then to look around and see all of the chairs right there together in one room with various people with different accesses and all of that, it really just did something to me. The other thing was I was kind of embarrassed that I didn't know more about kidney failure or kidney disease or dialysis. I was a little embarrassed, like, wow, this is what happens in these facilities. And, I didn't even know about it. Like I felt a little bad. I felt embarrassed that these people are coming in here 3 or 4 times a week, sitting for 4 hours or more, and nobody really knows. I almost felt like it was a secret. And so I would sit in the dialysis chair and just look around and say, what can I do to be a part of the change of this? Like I was devastated to be there, but by the time I landed on dialysis, I was on a mission. I was like, I don't know who I'm here for, God, but let's get this show on the road so I can roll up out of here. But in the process, it really changed me for the better. I became more empathetic. I decided that, I have to be an active participant in this journey. I have to find out how to make life better for myself and others. And so that's where Kindness for Kidneys was conceived. I didn't know the name or anything at that point. It really was, I just want to do something to change this narrative so that if anyone starts dialysis like I did, they're not coming in here blindsided. And the only way we're going to do that is if we start to talk about it. If we start to share our stories, and for a long time, I didn't want to share because I didn't want people to pity me. I didn't, people at work when I was getting ready to have my transplant, they were like, when did all of this happen? We never do. And it's because I only told the people that needed to know, my supervisor, my close colleagues. I didn't really want to wear, sickness on my sleeve. So when I got ready to have the transplant, they're like, when were you leaving to go to dialysis? Like I never knew, and all of this stuff. But, I came to a place where I knew I needed to start sharing with people because it could help to save lives. And when I started looking at it from that perspective, it was like, I need to do something about it. And that's where Kindness for Kidneys was conceived, just sitting in the dialysis chair when I started myself and looking around like, wow, I never knew this went on. And if I didn't know, I'm sure there are a lot of other people that didn't know. So I need to start sharing my story, and I need to start raising awareness in our communities to hopefully stop the cycle.
Yes, that is kind of how I started with like this podcast. because when I first started on dialysis, I was doing peritoneal. So I did not see the everyday of the in-center. It was kind of very like secluded, and for PD you go in for your labs and then it's kind of sectioned off, so you don't really see everybody in those chairs and of that environment. And it wasn't until I switched modalities and I was like, okay, there's a lot of younger people going through this, and I didn't even know because I wasn't on that side of the spectrum. So I was like, why isn't this being talked about? Especially like in my age demographic.
Be very traumatizing, because people aren't privy to what happens. It can, and you go in and see it for yourself. It's like, wow. I remember one time my family, we do a holiday drive, and we went into one of the facilities. We used to do Christmas caroling before COVID. And so one of the facilities had us on the floor, which I thought was different, but we were like, okay, if this is where you want us to sing. And so my family got to see firsthand what I experienced. Like, they saw the people sitting around the perimeter of the room and hearing the machines going off and seeing blood and all of that. And I think that they were even like, wow. They were kind of looking around like, okay, I didn't know this either. And it was an eye opener for them. Like, so you used to come in here and do this? And I'm like, yeah, because until you see it, you really don't have a vantage point or a view. And so it really, it's something, but we got to talk about it. And the more we talk about it and raise our voices, hopefully we'll see innovation, that dialysis is not the only treatment choice, that there are other treatment choices besides dialysis, especially for people who don't qualify for a transplant.
Exactly. Can you share maybe a defining moment that motivated? Well, I guess you already kind of do that that defining moment of you wanted to start your nonprofit organization.
For advocacy, my defining moment started when I was in the hospital the very first time when I got diagnosed. So I went to the hospital because I had swollen legs, and I was in the hospital for a few days. They were trying to figure out what was going on, and they had planned for me to have a biopsy and everything. And I was taking medication. This was really my first hospital stay. Like, besides having my daughter, I never was a person that was in and out of the hospital. So when I landed there for the kidney issue, I just was doing whatever they told me to do. They come in, they give me all this different medication. They were trying to get the swelling down. But my defining moment for advocacy happened one night because a nurse came in to give me medicine. And for some reason, I don't know why they come in 3, 4, 5 in the morning. I'm sure you know about that. I'm like, why do they have to come in at 3 and 4 in the morning?
Yeah.
But she came in and she was looking at my meds, getting ready to give me my medication. And one of them was a needle that they used to give me in my stomach. And so she was like, why are they giving you heparin? And I didn't know why they were giving me heparin. I didn't even know I was taking heparin. I just knew the nurses were coming in to give me a needle in my stomach. And that was a defining moment for me because I was embarrassed that I didn't know. Here she's like, why are they giving you heparin? And I'm like, well, one, I didn't even know I was taking heparin. What is heparin? I didn't have any clue about what they were doing. I just thought I was supposed to sit in there, whatever they came in there to do. I just was supposed to do it because they were there to help me get out the hospital. And that was a defining moment to me. And it really woke me up to, whoa, wait a minute, Sharron, you should not be in here just doing whatever they tell you to do. And she said, you don't need heparin. And I said, oh. She said, so the next time they come in here, don't take it. And I said, oh, I didn't know that I could, do that. I was just doing whatever they told me to do, thinking that this is going to help my kidneys. And so that woke me up to the importance of me being a part of the process. And so it wasn't for me to just sit in the bed in the hospital, letting time go by, watching TV, doing whatever, and not asking questions about, hey, okay, what is this medication you're prescribing? What are the side effects? Why am I taking it? Why am I being prescribed this medicine? It woke me up to the importance of, no, you have to be a partner in this. This is a partnership. So your lived experience with your condition and whatever's going on, plus their expertise, makes the perfect combination for you. And that really woke me up. And from then on, I was asking every time they came in there with something like, wait a minute, what is this for? What are the side effects? Do I really need to take it? Because sometimes you're just given the standard of care, whatever, particular condition is, like, here's the standard of care. And I was in a hospital, in a teaching hospital. So there were a lot of fellows coming in and out and interns and things like that. And so most likely they were looking at, okay, well, what's the standard of care for swollen legs and edema, and what's the standard of care for kidney health or whatever. And so I started asking questions, and I started to say, is this necessary for me to take? What should I expect? What are we hoping to gain from this? What's the end result supposed to be? And then how long am I going to be doing this? Is this an everyday thing? And I really understood in that moment when she said, why are you taking this? And I couldn't answer her to even tell her what I was taking. I understood in that moment that, Sharron, you, this is important. You have to be you don't even know what they're doing in here. And you're just sitting in this bed allowing it to happen. It's not to say that I didn't respect their training and expertise, but it made me realize that if I was going to be there, I needed to be present. I needed to be present in my healthcare and not just sitting there doing whatever people make mistakes. They're human as well. And so I needed to understand if something happens or if next shift happens and someone, is coming in to give me one thing and I'm like, that doesn't look like what I was taking before. Is this the right medicine? That I could be on guard about that. And so that was my start to my defining moment for advocacy, because I was embarrassed and I realized, whoa, I don't even know what's going on in here. I'm laying in this hospital bed and I'm just doing whatever they tell me to do. And I'm not even asking and being a part of the process.
I totally agree, because I try to, tell younger demographic, don't be afraid to ask doctors questions. It is their job to, inform you about what practices and what medications that they do to either take or partake in. That is a part of their training, teaching. So yes. Don't feel like you're bombarding them or getting on their nerves because you're asking questions. That is a part of their job, to answer questions that you have. And there are a few of doctors that may brush you to the side, but I feel like if you getting a lot of pushback or a lot of doctors just being like, don't question me, it's not the doctor for you. Because at that point, they don't really, like you said, they just doing the stand care. And what happens is, I feel like a lot of times in our community, we don't fit the cookie mold, because I have had a lot of doctors be like, oh yeah, she needs this, this, and this. And then in the middle of my hospital they be like, oh my goodness, like her body don't act the same to these medications. And they be baffled because they're like, this is the standard of care that we know of. So now we got to go back in our research and go back in our medicine bag and see what works for her. And I feel our community, when we are sick, we're just like, okay, going to listen to whatever the doctors say, and that's just that. Even if we're having like complications, we're like, okay, well, they're the doctors, know better. But at the end of the day, you know your body best.
Exactly. And I think we undervalue that because we look at them like, oh, well, they're the experts, so they should just be able to tell me. Yeah, but they're not in your body. They don't know how you feel. They don't know, your mental state. So those types of things, if we're on a part of it, and really because it's my life, I should be in the driver's seat. I should be, able to speak up and say, hey, this is going on, or I don't like how this makes me feel, and be valued as that. And I know sometimes, like you said, providers don't value the patient's input. But for those that are wise doctors and are good doctors, those are doctors that do. They want you to be a part of the process. They want you to care about how they treat you and to care about your health. And they want you to ask questions, because that's a win-win for both of us.
Right.
So, yes.
Yes, I love it. So, how has your personal experience with kidney transplant shaped the mission and values of your organization?
So my personal experiences have really been the driving force behind our mission, which is education, encouragement, and empowerment. If we aren't informed, and I a lot of times speak to patients, and sometimes we as patients make decisions without the proper education or information. And so, no, I'm not taking that medicine. I ain't doing this. But it's like, did you get the proper information? Did you do the proper research to come to that conclusion? Or are you just like, no, I'm not doing it, and not realizing what's on the other side of that decision? And so education has to be at the forefront so that you're knowledgeable and can hold a conversation with a healthcare provider that's trying to give you something that is not for your benefit. And so education is definitely a part of the forefront of everything that we do. Even for people that aren't impacted by kidney disease, they should know. They should be educated about it. And by us educating people, we're hoping that we're helping to prevent kidney disease or kidney failure. People are able to intervene ahead of time and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of before they get to dialysis or needing a kidney transplant. And so education is one of our tenets. Encouragement. And so going through my journey, I needed a lot of encouragement throughout. And I'm sure you can speak to this, Kayla.
Yes.
It's not easy. It's so hard. It's one of the hardest things I ever encountered in my life. And so that's important for us to encourage each other. Like, you can do this. Let's keep going. We can make it through it together. Let's connect with communities and support groups and organizations so that you don't feel isolated, because going through kidney failure, disease, dialysis, and all of that can feel very isolating. Like, yes, even though you may have a whole family behind you, it's you that goes to sit in that chair. And so by providing encouragement for kidney warriors, it really helps us to build community. It helps us to raise our voice and have a louder voice. When more of us are together saying, hey, no, we want change, then people are more likely to listen. And then also empowerment. And so the goal is, once you're educated and encouraged, we empower you to go out and make change in your circle of influence. Go out and start a revolution in your area, that we're not going to accept the status quo for kidney failure. We're not going to accept the status quo for our treatment and how we're treated. And so that definitely ties into my personal experiences and things that I experienced that have been carried over to Kindness for Kidneys.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about empowerment part, like when I started to do like the podcast and really look into like different organizations and different events and things like that, I would go and I would like, where's my people at? There was like maybe like 2 real us, and then the rest were other. So I'm like, where are our people? And this is acting our community the most.
Exactly.
So I really try to, encourage people. Go to these rallies, go to these events that are talking about not only kidney healthcare and kidney awareness, but they're talking about prevention and the key things that may lead to your kidney failure. So it's very important to, get involved and really just educate yourself. That, like you were saying.
Yes. Yes. And I think people don't realize, like, this is your life. Why would you want other people making decisions for your life? And so if you're not at the forefront of the change, then who's going to be there to be that voice for you and your community, you know? And it can be sad sometimes, because sometimes we can complain and, oh, they don't care about us and da 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 da.
But what are we doing
are you
take for the change?
Exactly. So if you're not showing up, that shows them that you don't care. So why would they care? And that's what I always tell people, like, show up for yourself and for your community. It's so much bigger than us. And if you're just, you know, if you're lackadaisical about it and or whatever, what would make you think that somebody else is going to be gung-ho about your health? You're the one that has to come to sit in this chair every week, you know, not them. And so when it comes to decision making, you should want to have a voice in that process and not just kind of lay down and take it. You want to be a part of the change that your voice could bring. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to be out there with a bullhorn, but even if that means sharing with your family members, just some way that you are being a part of some change that you want to see, and not just complaining about it the whole time. And as patients, I mean, we do have every right to complain. It's not easy. We're not feeling well. We're going through, in many cases, the most traumatic thing we've ever had to go through in life. And so I understand that, but I also understand that if we don't do something different, we're going to keep seeing the status quo in our community. And so we have to say something.
Repeating itself.
Yes. And so I'm like, if it's just one voice that stands up, you know, let's be that one voice, you know. And so I'm hoping that more will join the fight. Like, no, I'm not going to just lay down and take this. We need better care. We need better choices. And when you think about the heart space, there's been so many innovations that, you know, you can wear you can wear your device and go on about your day. You're not stuck to a center. And so if we're not raising our voice to say, no, this is not okay to just have these treatment options, we need more, then do that. You know, be a part of that.
Yes, and there are, like, I feel like there's a major difference between when I first started dialysis and now. Like, in the middle of the pandemic, there was a lot of younger people speaking up about their experiences and their stories with dialysis. And a few of them got transplanted. A few of them are still on dialysis. And it really just gave me, like, okay, I can do this. You know, I can talk about, you know, my experiences and my journey to impact my community.
Right. And I mean, and that's what you're doing with this podcast, Snap Back to Life, which I love the name, is that you are showing people that, you know, yes, you could be going through a very difficult time, but you can still pour out to others. You can still help others. I'm sure there are a lot of people that when they see your posts, when they hear your podcast, they are inspired to keep going. Some people want to give up and quit. They want to just throw in the towel and say, you know what, I'll just die here. I'll just, you know, it can get to that point sometimes, but maybe they'll turn on Facebook or Instagram and see Snap Back to Life and see you on dialysis and keeping a positive attitude and like, okay, I can do that too. You know, I can keep going. I can see where this is bigger than me and I can help other people.
Thank you. And I try to, like, make it a little bit more transparent than I have made it in the past, because I tell people, you know, they'll be like, oh my goodness, let's have such a positive attitude. But there are days where I'm just like over it. And I just be like, yeah, no, I don't want to go to the Alice. I'm an hour late. Like, today is not my day. But I still go and I still muster up that little bit of faith. And, you know, I keep on pushing. But there are more, I'm not going to say there are more bad days than good, but there are more mentally days than there are mentally good days.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's how I'm gonna put it.
Yeah,
So,
I can definitely relate for sure. And then too, there are a lot of things that you experience in the dialysis center, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. I remember the first time that someone passed away, and while I was on dialysis, and so your emotions are kind of all over the place. You come in and like, oh, I remember Miss Mary sitting across there, and where's Miss Mary? You know, I asked the dialysis tech, and they're like, oh, she passed away last week. And I'm like, what? And so that can send your mind into a whole different space. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to die here too? You know, you start questioning things, or you see people that get a transplant and kind of like, okay, well, maybe it's close, you know, maybe it's right in my neighborhood if somebody right beside me is getting one. And so I don't think people understand the mental toll that it can take on you, where you have to go somewhere 3 times a week and sit there, and you do develop friendships with the people that are in your facility, and it really almost becomes like a family, but it doesn't mean that you want to be there.
Away from home. So yeah, I try to encourage my people, like, we having a bad day, but we still gonna go to dialysis.
Right. Especially if you're trying to get a transplant, you don't want to miss your treatments, because that can be held against you.
Exactly. Because I was in a re-evaluation for the list, and I don't know if the doctor was supposed to do this or not, but they were like, yeah, we can see every time you went to treatment and how long you ran. And I'm just okay.
Yeah, and they do. A lot of transplant centers will turn people down if they're not compliant, or put you on like a 6-month contract where you have to show that you're going to be compliant. And I understand it. Sometimes I think it could be a little harsh, because sometimes people really have extenuating circumstances, but they want to know that because organs are hard to come by. In many cases, there are more people waiting for organs than there are organs available. They want to make sure that the person they're giving the organ to will sustain the organ and will make sure that they take care of it. So I do understand that. But I tell kidney warriors all the time, like, just go to your treatments. Even if sometimes you have to stop because it gets too much and your blood pressure's too high or whatever, at least go, because that shows initiative, and it shows that they look at, I do that as another part-time job where I assist people in going through the transplant process. And I'm like, you have to go to treatment. If you don't go, they're gonna deny you. They are. And it can be hard. It can be hard because there are other barriers that people are facing, like transportation, and just, they have to work and all of that kind of stuff. And so I get from both sides, I get why sometimes treatment is not always at the top of the priority when I have to eat. I have to go to work so I can eat. And so that's a whole nother area that I feel needs to be addressed, not just denying people, but helping them get to where they need to be, helping them get through the transplant process, being a little flexible in understanding and working with people to help them get listed.
So how do you balance sharing your personal story with promoting border awareness and support for kidney health and organ donation?
You said, how do I balance it? Sharing my personal story and just sharing basic, broader information. I always read the room when I'm speaking somewhere. Sometimes when people share their stories and you look at them, and it almost can be intimidating to some people when you're like, oh, she already got her transplant, so she don't even really know my story, and she's not me, and my situation is different. So I try to be very sensitive whenever I'm speaking to someone or whenever I'm presenting about how far into my story I go, how much I share. So if I'm in a situation where I realize that people need more information than just hearing my story and what I went through, then I give more information, or I ask questions of them to get to know them better, because I want to make sure that our conversation or the event is going to meet their needs, and it's not about me per se. I'm just sharing my story as an example of what you can go through and how you can get through and navigate through. But I'm very mindful about what the goal is of the conversation or what the goal is of the event. And so sometimes I don't need to share a lot of my story. Hi, I'm Sharron. I was a former hemodialysis warrior, former peritoneal dialysis warrior, and now I'm a kidney transplant. And then I go into the information and answer questions. So I've tried to balance it that way by just being sensitive to what the conversation is about and how receptive people are to what we're talking about at the moment.
Yeah, I that too. I'm showing that even through all of that, I can look and see what's on the brighter side, what's on the horizon. Because it was before that, it was just like, okay, this is my new normal. I'm never going to get there. What's the point of really taking care of myself? I feel like a lot of younger people in this situation kind of feel the same way. So I said, okay, let me open up and tell them you can go worst of the worst and you can bounce back. You can snap, But when you do that, there's a lesson in it, So
Absolutely.
Really learn from it, take heed of it, and try your best to do better.
Right.
I'm saying that I'm perfect because I am not. Sometimes my labs be A1. Sometimes my labs be a little off. But I'll just try to portray it's okay,
Yeah.
But keep that fight up,
Right. And sometimes we don't realize that we go through things not just for ourselves. Sometimes it's bigger than us, and our story could be used as an example of going through and navigating through and having the ups and the downs and still deciding to move forward. When you're faced with a struggle like kidney disease, dialysis, transplant, all of that stuff, it's easy to get caught up in you and why me and why is this happening to me and why I'm only 25 years old. Why is this happening? And I'm in the prime of my life. All of my friends are going and they're living their lives. And here I am going to dialysis. And it's easy to get into that mindset and start having a pity party and even go into depression. It's easy to get there. And so it really takes a lot of courage and heart to step outside of that and understand that, okay, this happened for a reason. And whatever lesson I'm supposed to learn from it and whatever help I'm supposed to give other people, that's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to take this and use it as a stepping stone to my next level, instead of looking at it like my life is over now. And it takes courage and bravery to do that. It takes intentionality to do that. You really have to set your mind and focus on something different. And not to say it's not going to go back to that, because you have to continuously renew your mind concerning your health and the way forward. And some days it's just so dark and it's so foggy, you don't see your way out. It's like, this is just a never ending story. It's never going to happen for me. I'm never going to get out of this. But it does take effort in saying, nope, I'm not going to think like that. I was like that yesterday. Today is a new day. I'm gonna keep putting one foot in front of the other. And so I completely understand what you're saying. It's just making up in your mind that, no, I'm moving forward. I'm moving forward. And some days it's gonna be messy. Some days I may not be able to see my way clear, but I believe that I'm going to be on the other side of this, whatever that other side looks like. Sometimes it's, hey, I may still be here on dialysis, but I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to get to know the people here. I'm going to shed a light on kidney disease, just like what you're doing. I turn on Instagram and I'm like, wow, she's so brave. She's sitting there in the dialysis chair, sharing her story and motivating other people. And that takes intentionality to say, I'm not going to focus on me. I'm going to share so that other people will be encouraged. And so that takes a whole nother level of courage and bravery. And and stepping out of sight. You could easily sit in a chair and just put the cover over your head and get through the treatment and leave back out and come back and do it the next time you have to come. But you decided that no, I'm going to take control of this situation, and I'm going to share with other people and encourage other people. And it really does, when you start to pour out to other people, it really does help fill you up as well. And
it does, because it makes you feel like, okay, this is not in vain, you know? And not to say that I'm going through this because of vainness, but it gives you a sense of purpose. Like, okay, Lord, I see you.
Yes. And you just have no idea how many people are being encouraged and inspired, even if they don't leave a comment or they don't text you back or whatever. You just have no idea. Or you just coming in and smiling at someone, you know. I just remember, even when I go to doctor's appointments and all of that, just a smile could help brighten someone's day. And the goal is to try to step outside of ourselves as much as we can and see other people, that we're not so inward and so consumed with ourselves that we miss out on opportunities to be a blessing to other people.
Yes, it's crazy because at my clinic, like, I'm one of the younger people that talk to everybody. Like, I talk to the older people, I talk to the younger people who are willing to me. A lot of the younger people are kind of just like, get out of my face. I'm here for my treatment, and that's
right.
You know. But I recently got a new tech in my pod, and she was like, Kayla, why every time you come in here, you gotta talk to 50,000,000 people before you sit in your And I'm just like, I don't know. And then my social worker came out and she was like, oh, it's our superstar.
Yes.
It's just like, it's not, it's good to have that community, have that camaraderie, have that sense of, you know, I see you see me.
Right. Absolutely. And those are legacies that you leave behind, you know. Even when you get your transplant or when you move on or whatever, you know, your next is, that's, you're planting seeds, seeds of hope, seeds of joy. And so we never want to underestimate that. With you just smiling or saying, hey, Miss Mary, or hey, Peter, how you doing? Or, you know, whoever, you know, even those that are younger that probably act like I don't want to be bothered. They're paying attention. You know, they're paying attention. Just may not be showing it, but they're paying attention.
Right. So what advice would you give to someone trying to start maybe advocating or start their own organization through their own personal stories of chronic illness?
So the first thing I would do is connect with other people, connect with other groups. The first thing that I did after I got my transplant and I knew I wanted to start getting involved in everything, and I knew eventually I would start my own, but I wasn't really sure when. And so I became a member of the American Association of Kidney Patients. That was like my first advocacy, outside of my own personal advocacy. When I'm advocating for myself, I decided to join the American Association of Kidney Patients. I went to one of their conferences in Florida. They had paid for, you know, patients to come. And that was like my first kickoff to, this is something I like to do. I like to come and connect with people and share my story and get tips on ways that I can live a better life, a quality life, and hear other people's struggles with transplant meds and their previous stories with dialysis. And so I would say connecting with other organizations, it lets you see what's out there, it lets you see what's missing where your organization could fit in. It lets you just connect and gain insight into what you want to do, because you can kind of get an idea of advocacy. With the American Association of Kidney Patients, I was doing Capitol Hill days. I was invited to come and speak and share my story at different places. So it really kind of started putting me out there before I started Kindness for Kidneys. And it also gave me ideas, because I remember going to the first meeting, and they had like these table discussions where you could go to different tables that were of interest to you. And I ended up being at the table with another group, All Kidney Patient Support Group, and they're a nonprofit organization. And so I was like, oh, wow, tell me about how you started. What do you all do? How did you know what to do? And so she was very helpful in just getting me started. And okay, this is where you need to go file for the IRS. This is how you do this. You need to decide if you want to be for-profit or nonprofit, and just giving me ideas of things that I could do to get started. And so that's how we started. That was kind of my transition. And so to answer your question more, my advice is get connected to the community, whether that's a large organization like the National Kidney Foundation or a smaller organization like All Kidney Patient Support Group, where I happened to be at her table and she was talking about what it was like to start her nonprofit. And they do a lot of wonderful work in the Florida area. They have like a food pantry where they're feeding people. Kidney warriors can come by and get various food items at different times during the month. She has a support group like I do for Kindness for Kidneys. And so just connecting is a good start. It's a good start.
Okay. So how can people become more involved with Kindness for Kidneys?
Sure. And yes, we need so many, however many volunteers, just support for our initiatives. We've only been at this for 5 years, so we're building, but you can definitely connect on our social media channels. We're at Kindness for Kidneys on Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. And then we're also on YouTube. And so would love for you to connect. Coming to our support groups is also a good way to come and connect and to just be a part of community, sharing any information that you have for us to be aware of. A lot of times people come to the meeting and share events that they're having. And so just coming and being a part of that. Donating also is always big. We're always raising money to further our initiatives in the community. We're getting ready to start a volunteer a volunteer committee, because what we're finding is we do a lot of health fairs and things like that. And so we need more people. We're small right now and mighty, but it's like, okay, we're growing. We need some more people, some more hands. And whether that's virtual or in person, we invite anyone to come and sign up for our volunteer committee, because we're growing. And around the holiday time, which is now, we do a big annual holiday drive. And so when our drive first started 7 years ago, we wanted to, it was really me just wanting to give back to my former clinic. Like, I wanted to go back and just say, hey, warriors, want to encourage you that I've had my transplant, but you can have a transplant too. Or even if you decide you don't want to have a transplant, we just know that we're here for you, that you can make it through, and just provide encouragement. And we ended up getting on the news for that first initiative. We were singing Christmas carols and passing out care packages that we had collected from the community. And so since then it's grown. So we're now up to 12 facilities. We also go to Children's National Hospital in DC. And so that's a huge time of year where people can really get involved through donations. If you're in the DMV area, you can come and go Christmas caroling with us. We're hoping to get back to Christmas caroling this year, at least at 1 or 2 facilities, because we started that before COVID. So we could go and sing. And then when COVID hit, we had to rely on just shipping things to the facility and making sure they got it that way because of COVID and with the dialysis unit where that's a very high population. And so people can get involved in that by donating, by coming and helping. We do a big bag packing day where we all come together and in one space and pack all the bags. And so feel free to reach out on any of our social media channels or through email on our website at kindnessforkidneys.org.
Okay. Yes, that sounds so encouraging. So, do you have any last words you want to say?
First, I want to thank you. This is an amazing podcast, SnapBack to Life. Like I said, I love the name. And just want to encourage any kidney warriors that are listening, any family members and caregivers that are listening, that, we can get through this together. We can get through this through community. And it's not until we come together and raise our voices that we'll see change in the kidney disease space. And that's what I'm committed to. I want to change the narrative surrounding kidney disease in our communities. And so I'm honored to partner with you. I'm so happy that we met, and I'm looking forward to the future. The future is bright, and if we come together and continue to support each other, we can see change. We can see change in this space.
Yes, thank you so much, Sharron. I just want to thank you for coming on. I think you were like the first, or maybe like you were one of the first pages that I followed, because I was like, oh my goodness, she is African American. She's advocating for other African Americans going through this. So I really just appreciated your whole platform.
Thank you.
And I just thank you, for willing to share your story, number one, because like you were saying, it's very brave and very it can be daunting at times, but you never know who needs it at the end of the day.
Right.
And I just, like you said, I look forward to, partnering with you and supporting you in your platform as well.
Thank you.
And I just thank you.
Thank you so much, and keep going, Kayla. Keep going. People need what you have to offer. So keep going. Of course, take care of yourself, but keep advocating, keep sharing your story. You really are making a difference, a huge difference in this world. And even though sometimes, even for us at Kindness for Kidneys, we'll have an event or we'll have a virtual session and maybe 3 people show up. And I have to keep reminding myself, like, no, we're going to keep going, even if it's just one person sitting here. That's one person in their circle of influence. So even though that one person may be sitting here, there's a whole community that they may have influence, or a whole family that's behind them, that by us sharing information for them, we're changing that family. And so I want you to keep going, no matter who you feel is listening or not listening, and keep sharing your story.
Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, till next time, remember to snap back to get your life back, and like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you guys go and check out Kindness for Kidneys, this amazing organization, on social media.
Thank you. Bye.